driving fast and feeling free on that asphalt lane. 4 wide at Talladega, they ain't holding no chain.
Gordon's dropped the back cockpit, and we get busy. Bars and under the sun drops, Memphis 19.
4 cars side by side in a wild friend ride, with the roar of the engines leaving all doubts behind. As the wheels spin on, chasing dreams we can't hide. That's car life where legends never die.
Welcome back, everybody, to the 4 Wide Podcast, episode 27, I do believe. You can fact check me on that if you are a listener. And we have every single individual here with us. So
crazy.
We will introduce everybody, and then we'll get into all the nitty-gritty, fun, talkative points of the news. And then, of course, probably the best short track racing probably in the last 6 years at Iowa Speedway, right? So we're looking forward to that. Well, we're going to go ahead and welcome back the guy that wasn't here last episode, Mr. Kent.
Yeah, this is one I didn't need to miss. Had a few things I needed to gloat about,
Well, you and Blake are both the gloaters, so I guess we'll throw it to Blake next.
Well, look, it's not gloating if it's true. Ain't that right, Kent?
Hey, yeah.
How's it going, Austin?
Doing well.
And I am, of course, your iconic voice of reason over here, Cole.
Was that what you are?
And yeah, I try to be the one and only, but it doesn't work sometimes. And of course, as always, the 4 Wide Podcast is brought to you by Wilkerson's Catering.
You know, it's easy to find a catering company these days, but it's rare to find one like Wilkerson's Catering. Based right here in North Carolina, Wilkerson's has built a reputation not just for incredible food, but for heart. They serve up refined Southern cuisine with fresh ingredients, bold flavor, and true attention to detail. But what really sets Wilkerson's apart is what they do off the plate. You see, they've been stepping up for our community in a big way, especially in times of crisis. Most recently, they've been helping raise money and support for disaster relief following Tropical Storm Chantel. When families needed help, Wilkerson's didn't hesitate. They rolled up their sleeves and got involved, not for the spotlight, not for a pat on the back, but because that's just who they are. From weddings to graduations to fundraisers and community events, Wilkerson's Catering brings not only amazing food, but a spirit of generosity and service. So the next time you need someone to help make your event delicious and meaningful, give Wilkerson's a call. Because when you support Wilkerson's, you're not just hiring a caterer, you're investing in a company that gives back to their community.
Blake, obviously you would have more inside knowledge with all the community involvement, especially where Chantel came through, and especially Meb and all the flooding that happened there. So if you want to talk about that real quick and just, put your little personal perspective behind that, and then we'll start into the old NASCAR stuff.
It was back at the first part of July, and tropical depression came through North Carolina and hit specifically Durham and the Chapel Hill area and Mebane. So Triangle, leaning over into the Triad area for those North Carolina folks. So not very often that a hurricane hits the middle part of North Carolina and there's actually significant damage. And so sadly that happened, but Kyle with Wilkerson Catering, I tell you, he really stepped up to go just feed the community. He's got a heart that obviously comes from his faith, but he also wants to help people with his gifting of cooking, right? And so he did that, and some local news companies were giving a spotlight to the food relief that he was giving to the Chantal victims. So super glad to know him, and big Truck Series fan, big Lane Riggs fan, obviously, with being from the Durham area. So super cool guy, and definitely encourage you to reach out to him if you're in North Carolina and let him cater your next event. You won't regret it.
He was actually at Orange County Speedway, I think, this weekend, wasn't it? Yeah, so he's actually at the race supporting. We always talk about, hey, if you are a race fan, one of the most important things that you can do as a race fan is buy tickets. Go to a race once or twice a year. Show that, you can fill the seats up, because seeing races like Iowa where the seats are completely filled, even if the racing, wasn't the best overall, that's a great aesthetic for NASCAR. So that goes same for your local racetracks as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think with the local tracks, they're not getting all that TV money that the way like in Iowa or like a Watkins Glen is going to be getting this weekend, right? And so, they might get a little money from Flow or Racing America, but it's also NBC deal, right? Best way you can go definitely is support them and buy a ticket.
Alrighty, so I wanted to talk about a little bit of news because we've had a lot here lately. I mean, a lot of craziness going on. First of all, probably the most prominent news that's been going on, especially given that the Truck Series has kind of been my favorite series of the year. I've been following it. We had kind of two storylines. One was more crazy than the other. So we'll probably do with that. Obviously, that Honeycutt is out of his knee stride, and I believe he will be driving for Stuart Friesen's automotive team after Watkins Glen. So I think he's driving. What truck is he driving, Blake?
It's the O2.
The
It's
O.
the O2.
Okay, I think that's a Young's. Is that a Young's Motorsports truck?
Yeah, it's Young's Motorsports.
Okay.
So obviously that's big news. Kind of the ordeal behind that is Honeycutt essentially signed with a different team and a different manufacturer. Manufacturer, if you're not into NASCAR, I mean, that's your Chevy, that's your Ford, that's your Toyota, that's your symbols on the front of your car, essentially, or truck. And in this case, probably since he's going to race for Stuart Friesen's team, was it Hallmark Racing, I believe?
Yeah,
So Friesen's team is Toyota. You would consider him, the front runner for Corey Haim's ride for wherever he decides to go next year. If he's going to the Xfinity Series or the Cup Series, but it's obvious that someone, probably over in the Tricon position, is moving. Now, we don't know for sure if it's Haim, but it seems like that would be the most obvious choice unless someone's leaving Tricon, like a Gray, for instance, if he decides there's a different avenue that he wants to go. But, I mean, that's pretty big news. And the choice of Honeycutt leaving the team, especially given that he has a premier spot in the points. He's currently 6th in the points of overall points for the Truck Series. That's not factoring in wins, but shocking. And now you're taking someone that's 24th in the Truck Series points overall, and Bailey Curry that's going to be replacing him for that playoff position. So I figured one of you guys probably want to jump in and talk about it. I think Austin mentioned it first, so I'll probably throw the old baseball to him here.
It's just petty to me. It really is. They said there was no malicious intent, but it's like you literally have a driver who is putting your cars in contention for the playoffs and the championship for the Truck Series, and you're going to cut him 2 weeks before the playoffs start. That just boggles my brain. So what? He's going to another team at the end of the year. He is your best shot at winning a championship. He's doing it on points. That's what's crazy. And to just cut him like that so suddenly, it just really, I think, speaks to the level of maturity in that organization. I mean, that's just bad business.
Has anybody said anything? Have y'all heard anything about, like, was it a contract thing? Like, if you sign with another team or another manufacturer in this case, then you can't drive for us. Was it anything contractual? Did y'all see anything like that? Because I got to thinking about it. I'm like, I wonder if that was like in the fine print of the contract he signed.
There was nothing published publicly from Nice or Honeycutt about it being like a mutual thing. You know how most of the time when stuff like this happens, there's usually in the fine print, it's like we mutually agreed that it was time to part ways. Most people will go about saying something like that. There was nothing in the fine print about that. It was just your stereotypical, hey, I was so thankful for Nice, give me this opportunity to be in a really good truck, contend for wins, and, be really good in the playoffs kind of deal thing. But there was nothing else. Now, the only thing is, maybe they don't want to mention verbatim with Tricon, like they want to ruin that, kind of like a Christopher Bell situation with Chase Briscoe coming.
Yeah, because that was just something I was thinking. I'm like, I wonder if that was a contract, but you would think they'd say it just to be a little preventive,
Between Chastain, Christopher, and Honeycutt, that organization is nothing. So I think it's pretty telling of the character of the company to just cut their driver that way. I feel for Honeycutt. I mean, the only thing he did is he made the mistake of telling the team that he was leaving at the end of the year. If he'd have kept it to his chest and waited till the end of the year, everything would have been fine. But he's being punished for being transparent with the team.
Well, maybe he can finish out the year really well, and it could be a blessing in disguise for him. I'm going to be really interested to see. I don't know that he'll perform well in a Young's truck, and it's no disrespect to young to motorsports, but it's no secret that they're not the A team of the Truck Series, right, or the B team. But maybe he can help their program grow a little bit. But it'll be interesting to see when he goes over to Hallmark Friesen Enterprises if he can get them into victory lane. I think he has the ability to do it, obviously, but could he potentially make a championship run with that, kind of like in a plot twist of a season, right? Going to be interesting to see for sure.
It brings up an interesting point that I'm sitting here thinking about is obviously, he's 6 in points, but that is going, of course, to the 45 ride. It almost feels like incredible to be able to give someone that a ride like that 45 where you have someone that's really far back in the points to take that position.
Well, with the driver points, would Hudden Cup be able to keep his driver points? But I know with the owner points, I know the 45 truck's probably going to go down. They've got some good drivers to fill in for him, but I'm sure they'll keep it in the owner's points. But I think that he'd be able to keep his driver points, wouldn't he? I
But
guess weekend.
yeah. So we'll definitely know this weekend for sure. But alrighty, but that was one thing, and then we had the news that Brent Cruz is going to be starting a truck team, one of the most prominent ARCA drivers currently, and it was kind of like a flub on their side because the social media account announced that Connor Zilic and Jesse Love are going to be executive roles for that team, which was not true. He had to make an apology, and then they both had to make apologies, Zilic and Jesse Love, to RCR and Junior Motorsports and their manufacturer, because if Britt Cruz is starting a team, he's probably going to be driving a Toyota because that is where he's driving in ARCA. He's driving a Toyota, and it just seems like a natural transition that he would be in a Toyota truck. So there was kind of a media flub over that. I know that there's been other people that talked about that on their shows and whatnot, but I found that very interesting this week. So that seems like such a young person, a young thing to do for a person, but it wasn't Cruz himself that made that announcement. It was probably his social media admin, whoever that was.
I'm happy for him. I think, like you said at the beginning of the episode, Cole, the Truck Series arguably has been the best series so far this year. I think you could definitely make a case for it, right? And so to see teams investing in the Truck Series, I think shows that there's some health to it, right? You're not really hearing about tons and tons and tons of downsizing, right? I know there's some rumors going around that Spire might downsize one truck, but they're going to be pouring more into the Xfinity series, right? But overall, you're seeing people like start new truck teams and want to be racing in the series, and I think that's a good sign of health that people want to be in. And I know we'll probably get into it, but like the driver lineup for the Truck Series this week is stacked, and it's like the fact that the Cup guys are willing to go down to the Truck Series, it shows that there's some credibility with it. There's a good aura with it, and especially with this year, because in the previous years, there wasn't a lot of Cup guys willing to really go down for quite a bit of races, but it seems like that's gotten a lot better due to the quality of it.
Last thing that I heard is there's maybe a little rumor in the garage that Haas and another team might merge at the end of the year. Maybe change manufacturers with that as well. So obviously, there's a lot going on. You have Spire with their ordeal with their lawsuit. You got Rick Ware Racing with their lawsuit. And you also got Legacy. They're all kind of interwoven there. There's, they're leaning more Legacy for what I hear lately, but it's still up in the air. It's rumor ultimately at the end of the day, but just another spicy tale that goes with these lawsuits that are associated with NASCAR and NASCAR teams, which has been the story. Seems like the season.
Yeah, and it's a shame because, overall, it's been a good year, right? I know that not every race has been a barn burner, hence this past weekend. But, overall, it's been a really interesting season. It really is a shame that a lot of this is having to take away from the good season. But you hate to see these, what seems like unneeded distractions.
We'll get to the Xfinity series here in a second, but Haas got their first win since, the restructuring of their organization. So it feels like a funny time to mention this now. It just happened to come out after they get this first win to get the monkey off the back, so to speak. That's a big deal if two teams decide to merge and put, funding together, especially if it's a team like Legacy that's got a lot of capital behind it.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely could launch them into the stratosphere if it's the right team and the right partnership together.
Haas with a one-car team in Cup. If they could partner with, now that Legacy's got Tier 1 OEM status with Toyota, even if they did go to Toyota, you would think that would be the natural transition. I don't really see Legacy going to Ford, right? But think about what that could do for Cole Custer's Cup future. The guy's got talent. You see it in the Xfinity series. But Haas just hadn't been fantastic for him in the Cup. But if they could partner with somebody like a Jimmy Johnson, and I'm just assuming the current driver lineup, right? There could be some other options, right? But just assuming the current driver lineup, that could be beneficial because you see how well John Hunter and Eric Jones have improved just in the last month in the speeds. The cars have been a tremendous world of difference, much, much better. And so if they keep on this trajectory, you could see them in a playoff position. I don't think that's out of possibility. Obviously with Daytona, especially with how good Eric Jones is at Darlington, like if he can get in, he could easily make it to the round of 12 with their speed, and be interesting to see.
I mean, and don't forget how underrated he is at the short tracks as well. You got Richmond coming up. That's one they probably have circled. Of course, the racing there has been, kind of subpar, which leads us to the discussion in regards to the racing at Iowa. However, the Xfinity Series race was not necessarily a snoozer. We had a lot of interesting stuff going on. We mentioned that Sam Mayer got the first win for Haas Factory and the first win this year for him. He was killing it in the points. Like he's fourth or fifth overall in points before this win even happened. Just, of course, not associated with wins and stuff because that all structures the points a little differently. But just points alone, he was doing really well for himself. Very consistent. And he's been super aggressive, which really was showcased in Iowa because if there was going to be positions to be made up, these restarts that they had were going to be probably your most capital gains in regards to gaining positions. Overall, guys, were y'all impressed with Mayer's performance? Obviously, we will get to the guy who we thought was probably going to win it based upon how the race started, how that happened, that storyline happened after that. But what was y'all's overall interpretations of Mayer's day?
Yeah, I thought it was a good day. Obviously, he wasn't the best car out there, but just put himself in a really good position to win there towards the end, and did some good defending to get to that point. But I didn't realize this, but this is the first Ford win in the Xfinity Series this year, not just for Haas or Mayer, but for Ford as well, and has snapped a 13 straight race win streak for Chevy. So that's insane. Really happy for Mayer finally getting the win. Feels like he's been so close several times this year. Has had good cars. You said it, Blake, in our group chat. What a shot in the arm for Haas. This is the first time this first year of them kind of being reconfigured, and Mayer getting the win here at a very crucial time, but right before Xfinity starts their playoffs. So happy for him, and it's good to see that he's been running consistent throughout the year as well. So he's placing himself in a good position for the playoffs. But I just don't know if he can outdo JRM, because Connor and Allgaier are tied at the top for points.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Zilich, who I don't want to. I mean, he didn't have a slow start to the year by any means, right? But on the ovals, you're starting to wonder, like, all right, he's a fantastic road racer, but when's that going to translate over to the ovals, right? And now that's going on, and now he's obviously a serious contender. But with Sam Mayer, he won last year. Definitely a good driver. Fits whatever it is about him and Iowa. It just meshes well together. And so really happy for Ford. They just don't have the teams or the personnel or the resources that obviously JRM or Gibbs and Sam Hunt, that partnership that they have, right? They just don't have the teams or the cars that all these other OEMs do. And so super good to see Ford be able to break through. I'm sure some Ford executives with NASCAR were quite happy to see that finally come to fruition.
What about you, Cam? What was your thoughts about Sam Mayer's win being the first Ford win, as we just previously discussed? We will obviously get to talking about Zilich here in a second, but just your overall thoughts about the race in general.
You said first Ford win. Was that Ford's first win in the Xfinity Series this season?
Yes, sir.
That's
It snapped
wild.
the 13 race streak for Chevy, winning 13 consecutive races at Xfinity.
Oh my word. Yeah, that's wild. I didn't realize that. That is absolutely crazy. I think back to the years of, Stuart Haas dominating with Chase Briscoe and some of these guys, and that just absolutely blows my mind. No, I was
Rack
happy.
dominant too in the Xfinity Series.
Yeah, I'm happy for Sam Mayer. I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about him, but I'm happy for Sam Mayer. I'm happy for that team. They needed something, to go their way after everything's happened. Yeah, that's wild. That still blows my mind that that Ford has been winless for that long in that series. But it makes sense when, a lot of the major players for Ford in the Xfinity Series through the years just haven't really being competitive. Penske doesn't have a team anymore.
Of course, man, second storyline, I feel like we kind of have to sit here and talk about, Zilich obviously looked like he was going to be the heavy hitter. He was the one that was really putting it to him. You could say he was really he was milking the lead. Obviously had the injury, and he's come back since then, since Kyle Larson put that car in victory lane, is just plugging away in regards to putting these good victories in for JRM. Really great momentum coming into the playoffs, obviously, running out of time for other teams to make it, but it feels like it was one of those days that was essentially wasted. You feel like Zilich probably could have put that thing in victory lane for the KOA, which is a sweet looking scheme, by the way. That yellow was sharp. I love the color yellow, but it looks like even better on a car like that with like sunset almost yellow. What was y'all's overall thoughts in regards to Zilich, everything that happened to him, and the frustration? That's probably the first time you really heard Connor Zilich that frustrated vocally on the radio during the broadcast.
I mean, it's good to hear him frustrated. It's good to hear him when some drivers showing passion. We talked about it like when Bubba won right after Indianapolis. Obviously, when they show some emotion, it's good to see that, and so shows you that they really really care. They're not in it to collect a paycheck or just to be out there to say, oh, I'm driving for Junior Motorsports, right? They're in it to chase trophies, and so I like it. I think if he focuses on this week well, I think he's obviously one of the probably top two favorites going into the weekend, right, for the Xfinity Series and probably the Truck Series as well. And I think and just put it behind him, keep on keeping on, and he is on slate to have a fantastic finish to the year.
It felt like he was human for once. The stretch he's had during the summer, I mean, he's been going ham. Waka Flocka going hard in the paint. He's he's been going crazy. I think it was nice to see somebody besides the JRM car in victory lane. That's how it's felt between the JRM cars here lately. I think he needs those tough days because he's getting ready to get into the cup seat here very soon, I would imagine. And when you get in those cars as a rookie, those good days are hard to come by. So he needs to enjoy those good days while he has them. I think obviously he'll get adjusted and acclimated to the Cup Series, but it's going to be an adjustment for him for sure.
Yeah, I think DBC kind of said that Zilich has an announcement for next week scheduled, so I feel like most of us kind of know what's going to happen with that.
Wonder what that could be.
He's going to be driving for IndyCar next year.
Daniel Suarez is coming back.
It's a trade.
He's driving the two.
But, I mean, he drove back up to fourth. That doesn't surprise me at all because he's been doing it the entire year. If he ever gets put in the back, he's been doing that his whole career. I mean, Watkins Glen, his first career win last year, he did the same thing. Had that penalty for essentially following, ironically, Sam Mayer, I think, was leading the race at that time of those three cars following him. They went outside of the regular scheduled course at Watkins Glen. That screwed them up. And then he drove back from the back to win that race. He's an incredible driver. We talk about how tough this next-gen car is to learn, but if there's someone that probably can learn it pretty easily, I would say probably your younger guys probably would be more prone to learn how to do it. It's just getting that seat time in. You put a vet in like Kyle Busch, who's been racing cars they've been the same for most of his career. He had like the car tomorrow, changed stuff around a little bit, was able to adjust to that, but he was younger back then. And now, I'm not saying he's an old man by any means. I'm not saying that he's washed, like some other people have said before historically. see that on the old Twitter machine. But you throw a younger driver in there, I feel like they probably will be able to adapt to it a little bit better, if that makes any sense.
There at the end, it looked like he was going to have a shot if he would have maybe lined up in the correct lane. But it sounds like he's incredibly talented, and yeah, I think I don't know if he's ready for Cup yet, but I think we're going to find out if he's ready for Cup because I think it's happening whether or not I think he's ready. So, anyways, they don't pay me to decide when somebody's ready, and that's probably a great thing.
Of course, had him get into the side of Allgaier more mid in the race, which is, it seems like these JRM cars just find each other on the track and they hit each other all the time. I mean, you had Sammy Smith at Martinsville getting to Allgaier, which essentially choked them out of a win, gave it to Austin Hill, which those playoff points don't matter anymore, obviously, with the suspension, which we talked about last week. It's definitely one of those things that's a storyline to definitely consider and getting into each other. You got SVG and Zilich getting into it earlier in the year, and that's because they're all fast. The only guy we yet to see break into the win column for JRM regularly scheduled is Quapple. It's been close several times. So that's definitely a storyline that we'll be looking for, especially coming into Richmond, Martinsville at the end of the year. Okay, we have to talk about it. How the heck can they not throw a freaking caution when Matty D's front end of his car is crumpled in? There's smoke coming out of the car. There's oil on the track. You know there has to be. There's got to be some kind of fluid on the track. And NASCAR's like, let's go, let him go around another lap full speed. Let's see what happens. I mean, what KNN official did we have up on the I mean, I swear, I was like, what's going on here?
Kudos to the broadcast, to the CW for easily showing it. Now, I don't know if it's something where the CW was just right place, right time, right storyline, right cars in order to see it, right? But you would also think that they're getting a lot of their stuff from action on the track, and I'm sure that they are quite in tune if NASCAR officials are talking about whether there's fluid on the track. It does kind of make you wonder, like, all right, I think somebody just dropped the ball here. There's really no ifs, ands, or buts. Maybe they couldn't see the fluid being poured down. It's just a missed call. There's no other way to put it. They missed it.
In regards to the Xfinity series, it's the worst call. I mean, you could argue the wear issue probably is right up there with it, but there's also that we talked about they couldn't get the safety crew out to where even if they did throw the caution, it probably would have been right about the same time. Anyways, I mean,
well, you know, Brandon Jones thinks it's the worst no call of the season.
He had a fantastic car too, man. That man was fast, super fast.
Yeah, I don't know how else to put it. I mean, it looked like it was a simple missed call, but also too, like, Matty D wasn't even going like race speed. I know it's a short track, but like, you obviously tell the car, like, it ain't raceable anymore. Yeah, that thing ain't going to the front, and he's booklining it just right down to the apron. So I think you call one just to be safe, on just in case there is fluid, because it looked like with all the smoke, you obviously would think that that's going to mean fluid, right? Or is that too simple, or am I on the right path there? All right. I know each series has different officials for the respective series, right? But we are talking about one level below the big dogs, so that's not acceptable.
We've seen it before. I mean, at Darlington 2 years ago, where Harvick's car caught on fire. His car is literally in flames towards turn one, and we're all like, "You gonna throw it? You gonna throw the caution?" Yeah, it's like the NASCAR officials, like the three blind mice from Shrek. How do you not see? There's literally flames coming out of this man's car. He's trying to get out of the car while the car is still moving, and we can't throw a caution. I don't know. I thought it was stupid. Jamie McMurray roasted the NASCAR officials for that. And it was like, this is ridiculous. Like, how could you not call a caution there? And then imagine if like young Kyle Busch had been caught up in that.
It's stupid. That's what
And
that is.
If y'all ever listen to Josh Pate, he's got a college football podcast, 10 out of 10 recommend. Football season's around the corner. Go Dogs. But, they talk all the time on that podcast about, or he does, about the officiating in college football. And he says, man, there's so many different calls that have just absolutely decided how games go instead of like it takes it out of the athlete's hands and then it decides how games go. But here in NASCAR, we're not talking about necessarily it deciding, being a deciding factor in the race. A lot of times it can be, and it probably is most of the time. But you're also deciding, like this is the deciding factor in somebody's health, safety, life, possibly even. You just never know. And so his point that, and the conclusion he comes to with college football officiating is you got to get these guys being paid full time salaries. Because when you're paid full time salaries, then all of a sudden you have a boss that can hold you accountable for the decisions that you made. The NASCAR officiating crews, like, are they full time? I would imagine so. They got to travel with the circuit. That's got to be a full time job, right? And so, if so, who do they answer to? I think of Cody Ware. I mean, he could have been absolutely blacked out in that car. We've all seen the clip of his steering wheel just crushed in and everything. That was an insane lick. And NASCAR is just going to sit on that and say, well, let's just let him at least get back to the white flag. No, it seems harmless, but what if someone else had piled into him? What if, God forbid, he had been sitting there with some sort of, really urgent traumatic brain injury or something like that? You got to err to the side of caution every single time. But then you got to assume, all right, if they really didn't see it, who's accountable? Like who gets the axe? I think that's what it comes down to is do you have people that care enough, not just about the people on the track, but make them care about their jobs too? That I think that would solve a lot of problems.
Well, and this isn't just a problem that was prevalent this weekend, right? I mean, obviously, like with Chicago, or even prevalent just this year. But like Cole and I'll be the first to tell you, we were at Martinsville a couple years ago, and they were in the middle of the green flag cycle, and a tire is just bouncing on the track, and it's bouncing like to the point where like gravity's not really taking effect yet, and it's bouncing to the point like if a car were to hit it, that thing could go up in the stands. But all in the name of, and they seem to have rescinded this now, I think, but like on the nail, we didn't want to throw the caution while they were in the green flag cycle. And it's like, okay, I get you're probably going to screw over a lot of guys, but dadgummit, a caution is a caution. No matter if you're in a green flag cycle, if you just got off the red flag, it's a green flag, and a caution happens, it's a caution. And safety has got to be um, the priority here.
I remember watching that 2011 race at Atlanta Motor Speedway, and it was the 34 like A&W car. I think it was maybe Landon Castle back then in 2011. Had spun out coming to pit road and stalled out at the beginning of pit lane, and so he was just kind of sitting there at pit entry up against the wall in a box, just chilling there. And they waited until the end of the pit cycle to throw the caution. In instances like that, maybe it's a little bit more debatable because he was not necessarily right there in the middle of a racing groove, and he was on pit road and that sort of thing. And he had not made contact with anything, but you still, if it's a caution under normal conditions, it's got to be a caution in every single condition. There's got to be some just straight up like white and black, like, hey, look, this is it. This is where we determine like this is a caution. But it seems like there's too much gray area still with a lot of it.
At Wilkesboro in turn two, they've got a official that's like right up at the track, right? So maybe if something's near the wall, they might not be able to see it, but they can easily see it from turns one into turn three and down the back stretch, right? If they couldn't see for some reason the oil, put your officials in a spot to where they can see the whole freaking corner. I know it's a short track. Get a lift or something that way they can look down, and even if they have to be at a point to where like the MRM broadcasters are at, that way they can see it. Give them some binoculars or something, right? But get them to a point where they can see it. There is also no harm in just coming out and saying, "Hey, we missed it. We thoroughly apologize to the 20 team. We apologize to the 99 team for not con quicker, and we're going to work to better ourselves." Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. You build so much more credibility just coming out saying, "Hey, we missed it," instead of like a no comment on it. Right? And Cole and I can tell you from doing officiating years back, the whole goal of officiating, even though it was for basketball, this principle still stands. Whatever you do, be preventive. Like, try to prevent situations before they happen. And I know you can't always do that, right? Put yourself in a position where you can see debris or oil on the track at a short track is one of those things that should be thought of beforehand. or if they are in a position to see it and they didn't, why didn't they see it? And it goes back to what you were saying, Kent, like be held accountable. I don't know if NASCAR has like a write up or like I know the NFL, they get judged based on their performance for officiating. I don't know. I don't know what their system looks like, but you've had some questionable safety stuff going on lately, and it's not good. I like seeing green flag racing for sure if you can, but my gosh, call the caution.
With that, we're going to move on to the old Cup Series race. Obviously, there's you know what? I'm not even going to try here. I'm just going to throw it to Austin because I know he's got his magnum opus ready to be thrown out here. His thesis statement for 25 pages, ready to talk about how much he loved the Cup race at Iowa.
We've all been critical of this next gen car this year and the short track package, especially. Puts on great races at road courses. It puts on great races at mile and a halves. But the past several years, the short tracks have been so lackluster. And, I'm not trying to take anything away from William Byron's win this weekend because he did win the race. We've had issues with the car. We've seen those issues, but I think there's never been a race where the issues with not being able to pass, especially, has been so evident than this race. Blaney, well, two examples. Brad was catching Briscoe and was clearly faster than both Byron and Briscoe. And as soon as he gets in Briscoe's dirty air, kills the car. He has no speed. Lost all momentum, can't pass him. Blaney, there towards the last 15 laps, was lapping a half a second faster than all three. Byron, Briscoe, and Brad was lapping and was clearly gaining. And as soon as he gets in Brad's dirty air, kills the car. No longer has the speed, no longer has any ability to pass. We've talked about how bad the short track package is and how it's an issue. And I don't think it was as evident as it was at Iowa this weekend. I called Cole yesterday. I showed him some of this data and basically talking about optimal laps and factoring in, if you look at the whole race and you factor in all these lap times for these drivers, where would they finish out? The 24 would have been a lap down based off of that data. And Blaney would be lapping Briscoe. That's how fast Blaney's car was when you take in the data and his lap times, factoring it in with how he handled lap traffic and tire wear and all these different things. Blaney would have almost lapped half the field. That's how fast Blaney's car was. But because of this car, he couldn't even make it past third place because he couldn't pass. And then you look at the front, Byron's leading. He can't even pass the lap cars. And I'm like, what are we doing here? And, Leigh Diffey, bless his heart, he was trying his best to make that race as exciting as he could. But, he's like, they're all together going into turn one. And it's like, yeah, they don't need to be all together. Byron should be lapping them and passing them easily. The fact that Byron was going barely half throttle the last 30 laps and nobody could gain anything. To me, that just exhibited fully to me how poor this car is. I don't know if it had to do with the tire, because it was a different tire than last year at Iowa. And Iowa's race last year was great with Blaney winning. It was a good win. But this one was just so underwhelming, and it just really bothered me. And it's like, man, we got to fix this. We're killing our short tracks because they're unwatchable. I don't want to watch it. I don't want to watch them, not be able to pass. And there was at one point where Leigh was like, they've been battling each other for the lead for 42 laps. They don't need to be battling each other for 42 laps for the lead. It should be 5 to 10 at the most. But instead, because this car is so terrible at short tracks, dirty air should not come into the equation at a shorter track. It should not. It absolutely should not. So NASCAR has got to figure out how to fix this car, how to fix the short tracks. And, props to Byron. He aero blocked, did what he needed to do, got the win, and he raced how he needed to race it. But, man, I'm just tired of this.
And if I hear dirty air out of short track one more time, I might bang my head on a wall.
That's a good point. Is for our listeners that are not concurrent with NASCAR, they'd be like, what the heck is dirty air? So essentially, dirty air, the basic terminology is air that is coming off another car. So you have clean air. So essentially, when you're out up front, you don't have any other air coming other than what's in the environment. And dirty air is air that's coming off another car. So essentially, when you get into this dirty air, you are not able to handle the car appropriately well. So you have to adjust your speed, be able to obviously just not spin out. We've seen multiple instances throughout the year of a car getting in dirty air and they do a 360, but this dirty air with this next gen car has been a problematic thing. And it's not just at the short track, it's everywhere. Even at the mile and a half, it's still there.
Larson
So,
loves dirty air.
yeah.
Well, I think the dirty air is more prevalent at the mile and a half and the 2 mile tracks. The short tracks, the reason that they hadn't been able to pass is just because of the horsepower. And being able to downshift and stuff like that. The fact that dirty air was a problem at Iowa was a weird thing. It kind of falling in that short track category, I think, because it's a higher speed track with kind of the sweeping turns, really a steeper banked Richmond almost, I think that's what really attributed to the dirty air being prevalent. We're acting like William Byron was driving a trash can out there compared to the rest of the field. He was top 5 in practice. He qualified second and he led the first 60 something laps of the race. He had a good car, but as the race went on, didn't have the best car. He probably had a top 5 car, and then with the brake issues, probably pushed him outside of being a top 10 car, in my opinion. And, he had some brakes kind of fall his way. I kind of think that, with the whole half throttle thing, saving gas, I don't think he's able to do that if Briscoe and Keselowski, them battling each other, slowed down their lap times and was the reason that Byron was able to pull back away. As much as excited about Byron winning, I'm sick of lap cars having as much say in these things. I'm sick of the fact that the Coke 600, Byron drives up behind Logano and then cannot go any farther. You ought to be able to drive to the rear end of the car in front of you, get them loose and drive by it. The faster car, the car behind, ought to be able to be on offense there. I've said how bad I feel like William Byron is at holding off the field and aero blocking. I feel like he's got to be one of the worst, drivers when it comes to just being on defense in the field. Because I feel like every single time he has an opportunity, y'all saw him just blowing it. All he had to do was hold his line against Keselowski. He had the first stage won. Obviously, Keselowski was way faster, and he just blew it. He just got into the corner a little bit too hot, and there goes Keselowski to the lead and wins the stage. And Byron even lost the second position, too, on the same corner. So for someone to be as bad as I feel like Byron is at aero blocking, to be able to aero block and win, I think that's got to say something. But, there was a lot of side by side. And so y'all helped me explain to maybe the new NASCAR fan or the casual NASCAR fan why side by side racing is not always good racing.
With the dirty air, if you go to 2 lanes, you got one car that's got cleaner air and the other car that's got cleaner air. But the problem is they're running 2 1,000ths difference. So they've got it to where surface level, it looks super competitive, and it is, but it looks like it's not natural competitive racing. It's manufactured because you've got 2 cars who are just so stagnant. They're going equal speed, so obviously one's not going to pass the other, and they're going to look like they're going side by side. Tough racing. I don't think it's the same thing like what you saw with like a Dale Jr. and a Kyle Busch at Richmond in 08 or something like that, right? And just going at it for the lead. The cars are just so similar in speed. The parity is killing it. I mean, 30th is running a 10th off the speed of first. If you're an underdog, I mean, I get it. You love that a team like Spire or Front Row Motorsports it's easier to work their way up and contend for wins now, right? It's more fair, if you will, but it's killing the racing product. And I hate it for the fan. Like, it's not, none of these tracks are bad tracks, but the cars are terrible. And you hate it for the Iowa fans because they packed it out 2 years in a row. I think they should continue to go back for the fans' sake, 100%. It's not a track problem. I mean, the tires, they're helpful, but essentially it's a Band-Aid to this car. I mean, it can be helpful, but it's not the end all be all, but you look at what some of the old school fans are saying, they're right. I mean, you look back at '06, '07, you didn't have any short track problems because the front of the cars was literally on the ground. The back of the car was up. Kind of like a little bit like how the Xfinity cars are right now. You can go up to somebody, the dirty air isn't as abrasive, get the car in front of you loose, be able to pass them because you're faster. And is there some parity? A little, but it's nowhere near what it is in the Cup Series, right? And you're able to pass if everybody's running the same speed, everybody's running the same line. All this SMT data, they can see now that, all these drivers are doing this. Everything is the freaking same. Yeah, you're going to have side by side racing, but nobody's going to pass. Now, if they're genuinely going hard at it for the lead for 42 laps, heck yeah, that's awesome. But it's all freaking manufactured. It's like the super speedway racing. I mean, I know that it's the old car, they'd run single file some, yeah, but it's like they're all fuel saving. It's manufactured 3 wide the whole time. It's appeasing to the eye, but as a race fan, like, is it genuine? Probably not.
Yeah. As a race fan, it feels like you're almost screaming into the void at this point, especially this far into the season. They said that they were going to look into maybe possibly doing something in horsepower for 2026, but based upon it depends on what track they're at. So if short tracks probably won't be able to be changed that much. That's kind of wild, which that's a whole different discussion that we can talk about one day. But also another thing that kind of forgot to mention is obviously we have less side force on these cars. So this is like the extra push that helps propel a car to go forward when they're side by side, right? And with this next gen car, they've essentially eliminated that. So when they're side by side, there's no way to be able to pass. It's just wild to me that we have this problem at this portion of the season in this car, honestly, because we've had several years to make progressions to this, and NASCAR is just so slow moving about anything. It's like we're trying to get a bill passed in the Senate, when you have conflictions with everything that's going on in regards to parties and all that garbage. It feels like that's what NASCAR is like when we're trying to just get good racing for the race fans, because ultimately that's what sells your product.
Everything is so backwards than what it used to be. So, like, you take old school back in the day tire wear, if it was hot and slick, you'd be able to go to multiple grooves and you'd be able to really have a good race. I mean, if it's in the daytime and it's hot and slick, the parity's so bad it doesn't matter. If the tires are like, if it's like 50 degrees or below outside, hence like at the Clash, it's a good race. It's like, what? Like, the tires matter when it's cooler now. Nothing makes sense about it. I know, like, you got to progress with the times. Why is there not multiple changes just so we can talk about another manufacturer coming in for what, year 11 now? Well, how's that going? If I propose to my boss, hey, I'm going to try to fix something and I'm 11 years in with the hope of a vision happening and it doesn't happen, I'm probably getting axed. Like, just in the real world. Say that again.
I said it moves as fast as some Baptist churches do.
Yeah. Kudos to the race fans in Iowa. I mean, I think, if podcasts by the fans for the fans, I mean, give them a shout out. They know that the short track package ain't great. They still sold the place out 2 years in a row. I think they deserve a lot of credit.
The majority of those are your blue collar racing fans too. So, which is the base that NASCAR supposedly is trying to figure out how to build now, since they've absolutely destroyed it, according to most people on the old social medias, as they say. You literally got the ARCA car, the top ARCA car, out qualified Chase Briscoe with the pole. Think about that. Still on that for a little bit. But I will, of course, talk about the counterpart to this argument. We know that we can't pass green flags. Where are you going to do your passing at? This is where we talked about the Xfinity on the restarts. And that is why there was 8, 9 cautions towards the end of this race, because everybody knew that they were going to have to put it all on the line so they could just gain 3 to 4 spots before everybody got single wide. And you had teammates dooring each other. You had Larson, Elliott dooring each other. You had Briscoe and Bell getting into each other. Then you had Bell and Larson getting into each other. It led to a lot of drama. I feel like that saved this race. I mean, if it would have been like Byron leading kind of what like Larson did at Bristol earlier in the year, we would have seen a lot lower results. But due to their, their anticipation that, hey, they know they're not going to be able to pass, so they're going to have to pass where they can. That's why you had a whole bunch of these restarts. You can thank SVG for bringing the first caution out.
A real hero.
He was running 16th at the time with no pit strategy, let me tell you. And then it led to this interesting ending. Of course, you could say NBC kind of manufactured the drama here because they had their gas reflecting that Byron was going to be clearly out of fuel. He had 3% with like 5 laps to go.
Yeah, he ran like the last 3 laps on 0%, according to their meter. Yeah, that was absolutely insane. I gotta hand it to Leigh Diffey. The guy absolutely worked his tail end off. Here's what I didn't get about the coverage. I'm sure y'all all watched it on TV. What are we doing cutting to commercial breaks when we're when we're battling for the lead, approaching lap traffic, and the battle for the lucky dog? Like, you have all that in one frame. And hey, we'll be right back. And next thing you know, it's whopper, 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 whopper. I don't know. Anyways, that was irritating. Full screen commercials. I mean, if there was ever a time for side by side, it was right there. And then, there at the end of the race, they finally brought out the side by side. I know we were spoiled with Prime. Prime did stuff that no network will ever be able to do. But even Fox,
Yeah, Fox did side by side.
they did side by sides. And you saw 90+% of green flag racing. Like, I don't know. I just, NBC, they've lost a lot of their luster after losing, Dale Jr., even Rick Allen, and some other guys. We were talking about it. Maybe Rick Allen isn't the best out there, but he certainly was not a bad voice for NBC. Leigh Diffey, I think he's great. I think he's excellent at what he does. But then there were times that they were wrecking. I would see it. I'm like, hey, there's a wreck there. There's a wreck there. There's a wreck there. By the way, they're spinning off of turn 4. Like, that happened 3 business days ago. Like, how did y'all? I genuinely didn't think they were at the track. I thought they must be in a studio somewhere.
And that's kind of Jeff Burton's gig right there. When there's something that's happening wreck-wise, that's supposed to be like his, So it almost makes you like sit there and think, Leigh Diffey was waiting for him, and he's like looking at Jeff like, are you going to say something, Jeff?
Yeah.
I mean, think about, Dale Jr. and the NBC when he first started. They would be like mid-sentence. He'd be like, oh, gosh, there's a wreck. And, just surprise the crap out of everybody. You're sitting there just watching a race, and you're about to come out of your chair because you're scared.
At the same time, Rick Allen gave him that freedom to do that, right? I wonder, does Leigh Diffey have a little bit more of an ego trip and say, you don't talk until I'm done talking? Or, I mean, who's to say? I mean, I know that we would tend to think no, because the guy is an excellent broadcaster, but part of being an excellent broadcaster is empowering your team to do what they're supposed to do as well. And so that almost gave the vibe of Jeff Burton kind of thinking, I don't know if it's okay for me to talk right now.
It is the first time in the booth, together at NBC for this year. So you do have to give him some slack.
I think Cole's on to a good point. I mean, hopefully they're just working out and fine tuning some stuff. We've seen what, even without Dale Jr., we have seen that NBC can be a super good quality broadcast, right? And you're right, Kent. I mean, Amazon Prime is on a whole nother level than what cable networks can do, right? Something that I like about NBC they did a lot of pre-race and they did a lot of post-race. So I think there's a lot of good thing. TNT, they had some good pre-race and some good post-race too. Racing coverage was a little less than what I thought it was going to be for TNT. That was for me personally. I don't know if y'all felt like that, but maybe that was just like a prime hangover, with TNT coming right there. Hopefully get a little bit better. They've got 13 more races to go now. They got a good time to nail it down, so it'll be just a tad better. And it's not like it was a bad broadcast. Playoffs will start, and playoffs kind of take the storylines there. Go eventually, it'll be all right.
What about you, Austin? I know that you're very opinionated, and I know you have a little bit more stock in regards to Diffey, and you know a little bit more about him. You've heard him broadcast a lot more. What was just your overall thoughts? I feel like you're probably the best suited to talk about this.
Maybe I just wasn't paying attention, but I didn't even notice they did do a side by side. Maybe the race was just that bad. I didn't even realize that they never did a side by side. But pound per pound, I think Leigh Diffey is the best broadcaster in NASCAR. He's one of the best in motorsports, period, in my opinion. I don't think he's the best, but I think he's like top 3 for me. Just the energy he brings. There's been a lot of controversy on social media from people within the journalism world and whatnot being like, well, I just don't like Leigh Diffey's voice because it's not American. And it's like, who cares? Like, genuinely, who cares? What I care about is, does he know his stuff? And can he call a good race? And, you got these boomers that are complaining about somebody that someone has a British accent or an Australian accent or a New Zealand accent. And it's like, do you not remember the 80s and 90s? You had David Hobbs on TV who was British, and it's just NASCAR fans will always find something to complain about. I think he's better than Mike Joy is now. I think he's better than Mike Joy in his prime, in my opinion. I like Leigh Diffey a lot. He brings a lot to the sport. He brings the energy. He tries his best to make races entertaining. People on social media are like, that man needs to calm down. He's too excited.
Austin, correct me if I'm wrong, but the F1 broadcasters, they seem pretty excited when they're doing a bunch of train racing, I mean, and you look at MRE, they were doing the radio style broadcast for Chicago one year. I think it may be 2020. I think it was Daniel Suarez or somebody was doing a qualifying lap, and Mike Bagley made it seem like the most interesting thing in the world due to his excitement. And it's like, that's what you have to do, especially if the race is subpar, right? And I'll be honest, I think having Leigh Diffey in the booth helped the race because I'm like, wow, yeah, there is a lot of side by side. Now, you like I said, it's kind of manufactured, but on the other hand, you're like, oh my gosh, there's side by side for the lead. Who cares if he's got a foreign accent or not? I mean, you got Jeff Burton right to his side with the South Boston accent. I mean, you got your Southern.
All due respect to Jeff Burton, but his voice sounds like nails on the chalkboard to me.
Well, I'm just saying the logic of a Southerner. I mean, that's exactly that's kind of what they're getting at. I mean, at the root issue. I mean, you got a Southern guy there.
Someone that's, maybe let's just say that someone's followed NASCAR concurrently through we'll say it's like early 90s, and I can see kind of their perspective with this. But first of all, I mean, Diffey, he's an American citizen, right? Like he has a residence in America. He legally here. So I know he has, of course, affiliation, voice wise and stuff, sure, but we all do. We all have different dialects. We're all from different parts of America. So to really make fun of that is just kind of stupid in my mind. That'd be like throw Ward Burton up there. It'll be somebody from England, but I can't understand a freaking thing a man's saying.
I don't get the hate for Leigh Diffey. He brings so much excitement and energy to the sport. That's what this sport is desperately needing right now, is excitement and energy. His call for Harrison Burton's Daytona win, that kind of stuff. I mean, I hadn't heard that kind of stuff since Alan Bestwick or prime Mike Joy. I feel like the last time Mike Joy said something that I thought, man, that was good, it was in 2018 when Austin Dillon won it, and he was 20 years later. That was pretty cool. But since then, I you know, Leigh Diffey has the ability to kind of come up with some of those one-liners, and it's pretty cool when you got a guy that can do that, because it's a lost art in NASCAR to be able to think as fast as those cars are coming off of turn 4. But yeah, I don't get the hate. I just don't get it.
I wonder if it's and look, when I say this, I'm not supporting it by any means. I almost wonder if it's just another symptom of NASCAR leaving us behind, right? I wonder if that's NASCAR's come out and they're saying, well, we want to get our old fans back. Yes, you probably should focus on that. But there's no nice way to say this. You don't alienate anybody, but they've kind of dug themselves a hole for years and years and years. This is a 20-year long symptom going on here. In all fairness, I think most of the fan base loves Leigh Diffey. I think you had a couple guys posting about it on social media who are loud voices, but I haven't met a single just normal race fan who is like, I don't like this guy.
Twitter was a dumpster fire after that
What?
race. I just was looking. You got guys in there going, I can't understand that foreigner, and talking about how you guys stop watching NASCAR when Dale died, and it's like, okay, then why are you still commenting on everything?
Well, that's because they're still watching. It's like a guilty pleasure. They know they shouldn't, but they got to because they just can't get it out of their system. I'm glad they're watching, but to the fans who might be upset, just chill. Do what you need to relax. It's okay. Leigh Diffey loves the sport, or else he wouldn't be there. And he's got some great calls. The season's going to be all right. Eventually, it might be in the next generation of car. The short tracks will eventually get back going. Like, it's going to be all right. Take a breath, but also apply the proper pressure at the proper times. On the short tracks, keep the pressure going. The racing product is awful.
I think the issue that I have is a lot of the comments, they're borderline xenophobic, like hating on Diffie just because he's not American, just because he's a foreigner in a predominantly American sport. And that bothers me because it's like, who cares? Who gives a crap? If he knows something about the sport, he brings the energy. As Kent said, this is the energy and excitement NASCAR has been needing for years. This is something that NASCAR needs. We need a presence like him. And I've been looking forward to NBC's coverage all year just for Leigh Diffey alone. Like, that's the presence he brings.
You hit a good point because the same people who complain about Leigh Diffey's the same people saying the Fox coverage is boring. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So,
no, I mean, like, Formula One fans complain when they come to America because they always bring on Danica Patrick to announce and be a part of the pre-race and the broadcast coverage. And everyone's like, what the heck is she doing here? She's never raced a Formula One car. Yeah, she's never raced in a Formula One car. If you want to bring her on for an IndyCar broadcast, sure, go for it. Because, and I guess I don't really want her on a NASCAR broadcast, but, at least she's raced in NASCAR. But like with Formula One, she's never driven a Formula One car in racing. How can she offer any sort of color commentary to add to a conversation when she's never driven the car? But that's a topic for another day.
Yeah.
My point is, it's like we're hating on someone for the wrong reason.
Is he's learning the sport as he's doing it. Obviously, he's been a fan of motorsports in general, but he's going into the garage. He's learning stuff. This is only his second year of doing this. I mean, he's learning stuff as he goes, so you can't expect him to know everything that's going on. But I swear, guys, it feels like he does half the time. Like, we're sitting there and we're listening to him, and it's like, he knows a lot about NASCAR because he's putting the time in to learn. He actively is learning everything. So I feel like that's an important point and we need to move on. I do want to mention, though, a lot of people, talk about there's no passing and whatnot. I'll let you guys know that Bubba Wallace was 32nd on that last restart, and he made up to 6th place in 106 laps. Get to 6th and 106 laps at a short track. This ain't no Talladega. They're not going super long around. That shows that there was passing throughout the field. So I feel like if you went to the Iowa race, you might have got your money's worth of seeing racing. It just wasn't up front. It was in the pack. Like the same thing with Martinsville for me and Blake earlier in the year. We've seen a lot of racing. It just wasn't up front for the most part.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, that it goes back to like, it doesn't matter who the TV coverage is. TV's going to be limited in what they can do, right? It's always better in person. I'd much rather been at that race in person than on the TV. Just for the experience. And even if you have a great experience and you just so happen to see a race, at least good times could be had, right?
Yeah, for sure. But we're moving on to road course. We're going to talk about these entries for every single race because, my gosh, like we've said previously, it's stacked. So obviously we will start with the Craftsmen Truck Series. It's sponsored by Mission, which is, the tortilla company. 76 at the Glen. We got Sawalich in the 1. You got William Lambros in the number 2. The 07 of Kyle Busch. kind of a big guy. He's kind of known for the sport. Number 7, the Sammy Smith. He's also known in the sport. Josh Chastain in the 44, Connor Zilich in that 45, Christopher Bell in the 52, Wesley Slimp in the 62, Chris Buescher making a truck start in that 66 machine, Eric White in the 69, Brett Cruz in the 70, and Parker Kligerman in the 75. That's a whole bunch of names. That's going to be a very interesting race to follow. But then you got the Xfinity Series. You got more people. You got Preston Paradis in the 07. You got SVG in the 9 car. Michael McDowell and colleagues racing equipment, the 11. Number 14, Garrett Smithley. Riley Herbst is making another return. Really good road course racer for the most part. Riley Herbst in the 19 car. 24, Kaz Gralla, another road course racing expert. And you got Austin Green making another start in the 32. He's been pretty solid this year. Stephen Parsons in the 45. Then you got the other Austin Hill. You got Austin J. Hill in the 53 machine. 70 of Thomas Unazita, and he was really good early in road course races for the ARCA series in the year, and the number 91 of Josh Balicki. That might take me a deep breath because I got more in the Cup series. Not having to usually do this all the time. Of course, we have the charter situation, so Noah G, Bubba Wallace, Todd Gillen, Riley Herbst, Zane Smith, Tyler Reddick are open drivers, but there's still 40 spots, so they're going to get in. But you also have the 44 of J.J. Yaley. You got the 66 of Josh Balicki. You got Kent's favorite driver on the circuit, number 78 of Catherine Legg, making another start. She actually finished really well in her last road course effort. And Connor Zilich will be also making another Cup start, which will be essential given that he is probably going to be in the Cup Series next year. But this is at Watkins Glen, one of the most historic road courses on the NASCAR schedule. So, Kent, what do you have in store for us today in regards to Watkins Glen?
We've got a decent bit. Just going to kind of start with some history of the track and then roll from there. The track was opened, let's see here, 1956. And man, it's hosted a lot of different series and events. It's hosted Formula One. It has hosted their World Championship race going back into the 70s and 80s and hosted a lot of it then. There's more to the track than just what the Cup Series drives. I forget the numbering of the corners, but essentially there's this point where you've got one of the last longer straightaways before you've got, a left turn and a right turn, and then you're going back down the front stretch. But there is another course that if you come through that long sweeping turn just past, you call it the chicane or the bus stop, but you come past that where it breaks off to the left, and then it kind of is this little boot that just kind of jets out a little bit, and then you work your way back up onto the track, and then you still hit the last 2 turns. I remember, I believe it was it Jeff Gordon and Juan Pablo Montoya in 2001 did a ride swap, where Juan Pablo got in Jeff Gordon's car, and Jeff Gordon got into his F1 car.
It was Lewis Hamilton.
Was it Lewis Hamilton? Maybe it was, let me think. Tony Stewart, I think, also did something similar with someone else, but later on in his career. But just some really cool things that have taken place there at Watkins Glen. I do believe they drove that addition to the track for that event. But when it comes to just some of the nostalgia, some of the good racing, the Car of Tomorrow really put on a show there, especially in 2000. Glen is one of my favorite road course races. I mean, if you look at the majority of the stats, Jeff Gordon owns them. Not all, but the majority. In fact, y'all might not would guess who has the highest average finish throughout a career at Watkins Glen. You might not would guess that it's Carl Edwards. That's interesting. I don't know what the minimum races would be for that stat. I just know that it listed him as having it. It was like 8 point something, but it's the super speedway of, road course racing. And it's just because of how much on throttle time that they have here. Of course, you're on the brakes heavy in turn 1, and then you're kind of modulating up through the S's, and then you're just absolutely throttle down. And maybe with the lower horsepower package, maybe they are full throttle through the S's. I know it may depend on the downforce and that sort of thing, but they might Some drivers might be full throttle through the S's, kind of depending on when they roll back into it. But as they head towards the chicane, I mean, that's one of the fastest points, if not the fastest point on the racetrack, just because of all the speed that they've built up through the S's. And then they have to get on the brakes really hard. And so that's where you see a lot of drivers make mistakes, is getting in and out of that chicane. But, there's not as many turns at Watkins Glen as there are at other tracks. And I think it lends itself to more drivers being able to figure out this track that aren't your typical road course drivers. I remember there was a time where I didn't think Chase Elliott really was gonna be a road course ringer, and then all of a sudden he was just unbeatable at Watkins Glen for a couple of years. It was like, wow, okay, all right, he's on it. But 2012 into the last lap, and you've got Kyle Busch leading, and Kyle was winning everything. Kyle Busch is leading. On his heels is Brad Keselowski, and then right behind him is Marcus Ambrose. And these three cars are just giving it everything they've got. Well, Busch clears himself on Keselowski and kind of wrecks himself. Keselowski also didn't really give him any room in the S's. Busch spins out, so now it's Keselowski with a tire rub, and here comes Marcus Ambrose. And as they go up through the S's towards the chicane, I mean, you just see Ambrose just reeling him in, and then eventually pushing the two completely out of the groove, taking the lead, then thinking, oh no, all right, Keselowski's going to get him back right here. But Keselowski, I think he actually shot him out of a cannon towards one of those turns, and Ambrose just held on to it. And they're side by side for a little bit going into the final turn 11 there. And then Ambrose was able to get the drive off the corner and win the race. One of the most exciting finishes all time at that track. Just absolutely incredible. Legendary moments, though. I mean, don't stop there. When Chase Elliott got his first career win there in 2018, running out of gas on the warm down lap after the race, you had Jimmy Johnson, who was the one who would pick him up and push him to victory lane. And just really cool moments have happened at this racetrack time after time. It's lent itself to some really good racing, and I'm excited to see what the next chapter is going to look like this year. The storylines, are going to be jumping at the bit to pick SVG for this race, but it's going to be a lot of fun and so much history. Can't wait to see what the next bit of history of the track.
Most definitely. Alrighty, Austin. I know that you are going to talk about the track here and the dynamics and whatnot. I actually got a little image I'm going to pull up for you. Hopefully that it works here in a second. But just go ahead and get talking about maybe just the basics before we get to the turns and stuff. And I'll get it pulled up.
For sure. So we're at the Glen this weekend in Watkins Glen, New York. The layout is a 2.45-mile road course. The Cup uses the shorter version of this track. There are 7 official turns on this track, plus a bus stop chicane that is infamous at this track. This track, as you can see from the layout, the banking is minimal, but what you may not see is there's a good bit of elevation changes throughout the track and also some sweeping corners. This racetrack is the fastest road course that NASCAR races on by far because there are so few turns. There's a lot of straights, a lot of passing areas that you can get a bit of momentum going into a sweeping curve. The track was most recently repaved in 2016. It was repaved after the 2015 season, but the surface has matured and has settled in very well at this track, so it allows more grip while keeping lap speeds very fast. And a lot of the drivers will note that it is a smooth and fast track, and the tire wear is lower than other road courses, I guess, aside from Sonoma, now that Sonoma has their recent repave. But what fans can expect, as I mentioned, is high speeds. Once again, Watkins Glen is the fastest road course in NASCAR. Drivers are full throttle more than 50% of their lap on this track. There are heavy braking zones in certain areas, especially into turn 1 and the bus stop. These are prime passing and dive bombing spots. The S's is an interesting part of the track. If you remember, I think it was last year, Byron decided he was going to ride the wall a little bit in the S's. I think him and Keselowski got into it, and Byron ended up literally on the wall. Pit strategy, you're going to run into this with every road course. Teams are going to short pit before the stage ends. I would imagine if you got a guy like SVG running up front. He's probably not going to stay out for the stage win. He's going to short pit 2 laps before, right before pit road closes, and he's going to short pit and get out in front at the end of the stage. So watch out for pit strategy. It's not going to be super caution filled usually. It tends to have fewer natural cautions, so having a good green flag strategy is going to be huge. And also, we got to watch the weather when it comes to Watkins Glen. August in New York can be unpredictable, and I know for at least the South, they're calling for a lot of rain this week and this weekend. So keep an eye on the weather going into Watkins Glen this weekend. Drivers to watch, obviously SVG. He's going to be the one, but if I'm being honest, don't really think if he wins another racetrack, I don't know if it'll be this one, because a lot of the Cup guys have a lot of experience, and it's not your typical road course. It's not super technical. It's a lot of speed based. Guys that are also good here. Chase Elliott, he's won here twice. He's still pretty decent at road course racing, even though that's kind of changed since the next gen car. Kyle Larson won here back to back, 2021 and 2022. He tends to qualify well here as well. In track position does matter. Tyler Reddick, can't forget about him. He's in a position where ideally he would like to win. The next couple tracks, it's definitely possible for somebody who doesn't have a win to get one, and you just kind of want to lock yourself into the playoffs with that. Michael McDowell, underrated road course racer, really showed his stuff at Chicago, but his throttle gave out and he couldn't show us really just how good his car was. Allmendinger, he's always someone you got to watch when you come into this race. He's always a wild card. He won the Glen back in 2014. So, yeah, that's kind of what we're looking into. Short pitting before stage ends. Expect that. Expect fewer cautions. Track position is going to be more important than tire wear here at the Glen, and watch those restart zone battles going into that turn 1 and the bus stop. So watch out for dive bombs on that. I will hand it over to Blake to cover our tires.
Yeah, guys. So we'll be having the pretty much the typical road course tire we've had, which has been a pretty decent tire. We're going to have the Coda tire to give you a reference for a past race. Yeah, like Austin said, well paved track and a lot of high speeds and really, really short race. So especially if you do end up getting a caution or two, tire wear is not going to be too much of a concern. It's mainly more fuel strategy really that comes in here. When it comes to the race, they're going to have 5 sets. I think that's going to be definitely more than plenty. In case there were to be weather, I have looked at the weather. It does look like that it's sunny skies for all 3 races this weekend is what it seems like. But that could change. There is, like Austin said, there's just some weather, specifically maybe like a tropical storm or a hurricane headed towards the south. So you never know what the extension of that could look like. When it comes to the Xfinity and trucks, you've got 3 sets for the race and 3 wet weather sets. And for the Cup, just in case that does become applicable, you got 4 wet weather sets, and you've got 3 for the race, some dry sets and 3 wet weathers for the Xfinity and trucks. So that's what the tires are looking like. You could see a lot of strategy if you are getting a lot of cautions. You could see some 0 tires, 2 tires, and you could see some strategy with it. So should be pretty exciting to see how they go about it this weekend, because it's really only a 90-lap race. With the high speeds like that, when actually throwing a caution for the stage breaks back in, I think 2020, it had like 1 caution. It was an hour and 58 minutes long. So they haul tail around there, and usually they build a pretty durable tire for it. So I'll turn it to Cole for some fan experience.
One thing that I've always heard about Watkins Glen is it's kind of like Talladega-esque when it comes to the camping there. It's in a crazy environment. It's a fantastic atmosphere. Watkins Glen, when Chase Elliott won his first race, I think about the fans being absolutely filled up at that point, and everybody, they were standing, some were, using the arms to stand, things were going crazy. The world was going absolutely wild when Chase Elliott won. That was like, he broke through finally. That's kind of like the saving grace of NASCAR at that time. It's like, when is Chase going to break through? It's going to save NASCAR. It's kind of like the general premise for a lot of fans. It's always just been a fantastic track. Obviously, there's not a lot of premier spots when it comes to being at the racetrack seat wise, but camping I've heard is an absolute just trip. It's fun, so I would recommend if you are going to the Glen, maybe look into getting a camping spot, maybe a cheap camping spot if it's not already sold out, because most of the time it is. If so, maybe look towards next year. It's one racetrack that me and Blake's talked about often about going. Definitely would consider going there, especially because it'd be a better road course than the freaking Roval that we go to every year. That will be it for the fan experience side. Also, just a slight correction here. We wanted to mention this, that Tony Stewart and Hamilton were the ones that swapped at the Glen. While Kent was correct, Gordon and Juan Pablo Montoya did swap. That was at Indy. So we just had a little miscommunication there. Want to clear that up in case anybody tried to be like, well, actually, what actually happened was, which I don't think we have any viewers that are like that, so that's great. Alrighty, spicy take time, baby. I know that Austin didn't hit his because he said Daniel Dye was going to finish in the top 10, and he did not finish the race at all. Got into a little bit of a predicament. So, you know what? Let's see here. Kent wasn't here last week, so we always pick on the person that wasn't here. He is going to have to give the first spicy take for Watkins Glen this week.
Zilich gets a top 5 in Cup.
I like it. It's kind of funny, though. You're sitting there pondering, but it's like you also had the whole entire week to think about choosing a spicy take, and you're just like, let me decide real quick.
I totally come up with these last minute. I'm like, let me just wing it. Spicy take, you almost got to be that way with the spicy take.
That's fair. You almost think you do your picks the same way based upon where you're in the standings. But alrighty, Blake, what are we doing here for our spicy take?
I'm going to say Collick going to sweep the Xfinity in the Cup race.
So you think McDowell wins in the 11 car?
I think it's a possibility.
That's fair. Alrighty, what about you, Austin? You got anything spicy? You want to go back with Daniel Dye, run it back with Daniel Dye for the week?
Was looking good until Daniel wrecked. And he was actually running fairly well. And I'm probably not getting it for a top 5. This week, I think Christopher Bell is going to dominate the race and choke it on pit road. I think he's going to get screwed up on a strategy. I think he's going to do well during the race, maybe even dominate the race, and then have another heartbreaking race for him this year. So,
you know what? I say that John Hunter Nemechek surprises us and gets a top 5. I think Legacy's road course program, they can admittedly say that it's not been the best. They're making improvements like anything, but it's probably where they lack the most. Mile and a half, they're great. I mean, Charlotte comes to mind. Plate tracks, I mean, anybody can win at a plate track, but road course has kind of been their Achilles heel. It's where they've been bleeding some points, and I say John Hunter Nemechek stops that bleeding and gets a top 5, we'll say. That would be my spicy take. All right, Austin, go ahead, buddy.
So looking at the Truck Series, we obviously last covered them at IRP 2 weeks ago. Trucks are running this weekend at the Glen, which I'm excited to see. Kent, my friend, you are picking first because you picked Butterbean, and Butterbean did not do well in the truck race last time. So who is your first pick for this weekend? You cannot pick Riggs, Majeski, or Butterbean.
I got the entry list if you need it, but I mean, you got all kinds of names to pick from.
I asked who I couldn't pick again, but actually, it don't matter because I'm going Kyle Busch. Give me Kyle Busch.
Kyle Busch
over Connor Zilich. Interesting pick.
Wait, Zilich is running in the truck race?
Yep.
I missed
45.
that in the 45.
You can't take it back.
No, but I don't trust Nice. Yeah, no, I stand by that. Give me Kyle Busch in the Spire truck.
All right. Cole, I guess you're taking Zilich.
No, I'm going to take Corey Heim.
That's smart.
Blake, my friend, who are you taking?
Who can I pick?
You cannot pick Hocevar, Riggs, or Heim.
Give me Zilich. Why not?
And I will pick last because I picked Riggs and he won at RP. Give me Pusher.
We're leaving Bale on the table in the 52 truck.
So looking at our standings, there is a two-way race for first place. Kent and Blake are tied at 43. I'm third with 40. And then there's Cole with 34 points.
Like the opposite of the Cup.
Yeah.
Firm foundation over here. Firm foundation on the bottom.
So, And still, two of us do not have our playoff picks locked in with Majeski for me and Enfinger for Kent. But looking at Xfinity this week, I pick first for Glenn, and I got to take him. It's the last race he's racing again for the Xfinity Series. I got to take SVG. He won't be able to race at the Roval or Portland, so got to take it. See, Blake, my friend, you're next. You cannot pick Allgaier, Love, or Chastain.
Let's do a Zillage Square.
Zillage again for Mr. Blake. All right, Kent, you pick next. You cannot pick Almirola, Zillage, or Love.
You know, give me Mr. Right Hook. Give me Austin Hill.
Coleman.
Which one? Clarify. There's two Austin Hills. There's Austin J. Hill.
He said
and there's
right hook.
Austin Hill.
He said right hook.
We don't know. Austin J. Hill could be a right hook. We don't know. It could be inherited by the name.
Cole.
I didn't even realize that.
You can't pick Chastain, Almirola, or Mayer.
I'm between Austin Green and Michael McDowell, so McDowell screwed me over at Chicago, so I'm still kind of pissed at that, but give me him and hope he redeems it.
McDowell for Coleman. Xfinity is by far our closest. All four of us have our championship picks locked in. In the standings, I'm in the lead with 54, and there is a three-way tie. 52 for Blake, 52 for Kent, 52 for Cole. So somebody is going to finish this weekend in last place. We'll see how that goes. Now for Cup, recapping this past week, Cole stopped the bleeding. He's had the last 4 out of 5 races with Byron getting the win. Kent came in second with Blaney, heartbreakingly close to another win. I finished third with Elliott. Elliott did not have the right strategy, I should say, in order to win. And then Blake wasted his Larson pick this week. Larson did terrible this past week at Iowa. He had nothing. So Blake, my friend, you will have first pick this weekend. Do I even need to say who you're thinking about?
I can pick SVG, right?
Yes, sir, you can.
I mean, that's probably the obvious. Man, Briscoe's been getting it done. Top 5s and qualifying lately. I mean, you look at it, Martin Truex used to be super good at the Glen, so had pretty much the same crew chief for some of it. So interested to see how he does.
Briscoe finished second at Sonoma, so
Yeah.
All right, for me, I picked second. Automatically, I think Larson. Then I also think of the races that are coming up. Larson's good at Richmond, and he's good at Darlington, and really would like to have him available for at least one of those races coming up. So I'm probably leaning towards Busher. Busher runs very well at Watkins Glen, has an average finish of around P5 at Watkins Glen, and who needs a playoff win more than him right now? He cannot realistically get into the playoffs off of just points. I think if it does, it'd be close, but I think he's desperate for a win here, and it's a place where he's won before. So I'm looking at Busher this week. Let's see. Kent, my friend, you're picking second. You can't pick Elliott, Briscoe, or Blaney. Who are you considering for Watkins Glen?
Well, Busher's the only one with 3 top 10s and 3 starts in the next gen car. And so you took my pick there. I feel like that's a safe bet, especially with him winning it last year. But if I had to go another direction, you said I couldn't pick Elliott, I couldn't pick Blaney, and I couldn't pick
Briscoe? Yeah, Briscoe.
I like Christopher Bell here. I like Christopher Bell. Even William Byron, he's won a race here, and then he's had some tough luck here. If I had to nail it down right now, I'd probably go Bell.
I mean, always a safe pick when you're looking at road courses. Coleman, you are picking last this week. Not exactly the best track to pick last at necessarily, but there are worse, I guess. But you can't pick Chastain, you can't pick Reddick, and you can't pick Byron. Who are you considering going into this weekend?
I'll argue with you. I think road courses are probably the easiest because when you're that last pick, you're just trying to choose the best for the value. I mean, you got several guys. You got Bowman, really historically good at the road courses. You got Zillich, who's making a start, could impress some people. Was really good at Coda earlier in the year. Even someone like, I don't know, Kyle Busch. That's another guy, historically good. It's all going to be based upon where they finish in regards to qualifying and practice is kind of where I would make that decision ultimately.
Looking at our standings, I'm in the lead with 74 points. Cole is in second with 63. Blake is third with 58, and Kent is last with 57. The saving grace for Kent this season has been those 9 stage wins that you've had throughout the year. If it wasn't for those 9 stage wins, you'd be at 48 points.
You better thank me and Austin for agreeing that was going to be a thing this year when we first started.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, Ken ain't voting for that this year.
What do you mean?
It's the only
Without
thing
that,
keeping him
Kent would
alive.
be out. We can't help that you suck at picking stage winners.
Yeah, stage wins ain't been my thing at all this year.
You've gotten 1, and it didn't come till.
What? How many stage wins do y'all have?
Cole has 6 and I have 7. Majority of mine came from the Coke 600 when I swept the day there.
3 stages,
Yeah.
yeah.
As far as it comes to first place predictions, I'm in first with 5 first place predictions, and Cole is at 4. Link is at 3, and obviously Kent is 1 with the only win he's got this season.
Who was it?
You should have had 2, but
Oh,
Logano had to do Logano.
what was his first one?
And I just had a really good weekend, and that was it.
Bristol Larson.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah. So yeah, that was your race win, and then just overall wins. I have 10 total wins on the year. Cole has 7, Nick has 5, and then Kent has his 1. So
Good night.
I did some digging into last year. What's crazy is Blake's almost is 1 point away from you. But last year I finished the season with 11 wins, and I'm already here. So, looking at the championship predictions, 3 of us have ours locked in. Kent has Kyle Larson, Cole has Blaney, I have Christopher Bell, and Blake still does not have his pick. So, Blake, my friend, you better be pulling for a repeat winner to win this weekend, because if that happens, then Reddick is locked into the playoffs.
You know I am.
If there's a repeat winner, Reddick is officially in the playoffs because he can't possibly get booted out. So you better praying for a repeat winner this weekend to keep that alive. And yeah, that's what it looks like for us. ChatGPT said that Heim is going to win the truck race, said that SVG would win the Xfinity, and that Larson would win the Cup Series. Last week, ChatGPT picked Bell to win Iowa. ChatGPT picked Zilich, and then Truck obviously didn't race. So the ChatGPT was almost right with Zilich, but not quite. But we will see how this weekend goes, make our picks after qualifying, and then we got Richmond next week.
Can't wait to see Austin Dillon 2.0. Let's see it run back again this year. Maybe he'll actually win under green flag conditions and not on restart.
He had a good race, though, didn't he? Like, he had running good up to that point, and then just...
No, he didn't blow it. He would have won the race under green. They had a caution come out, and that caution essentially stacked him up where he had to do the Austin Dillon move that we all know and love now today, that we know as, just the Austin Dillon. That's what it's referred to for the most part. So, but yeah, me and Blake are going to Richmond. We're looking forward to being there at the racetrack. I was able to get a pretty good, decent deal. Richmond offers some pretty good ticket deals, especially given the short track package here in the last little bit. Great stuff. So we'll be looking forward to that. So you guys, we will see you later. Alrighty. All right. See you at Richmond next week.